Getting a new city off to a good start can be a tricky process. But trying to retrofit public transit after you've built everything, that's usually a nightmare. That's why I've put together this step-by-step build as a showcase of just one way you can approach it, hopefully saving you a few headaches along the way. We're going to build a really fun, if slightly over-engineered tram network, a historic downtown centered on a beautiful plaza, colorful rowhouse neighborhoods, a dedicated rail depot, and some busy industry. If you'd like to try something like this for yourself, my playset is linked in the description. If you enjoy these relaxed city start guides, I hope you'll consider hitting the like button and subscribing for similar content. Let's dive in. Welcome to a slightly cloudy but otherwise beautiful day to start a new city. And seeing as we're trying to incorporate public transit, more specifically a tram line from the very get-go, we're gonna start this city a little differently. So instead of mapping out all the road layouts, we're gonna start by placing a few tram stations. We'll place two at either suburban ends of the city, so one is gonna sit up here by this peninsula and another one is gonna be placed further into the farmland. And then we'll add the final one in the very heart of the city where the downtown area is gonna sit. Now don't get too attached to the specific design or the very specific location of each of these tram stations. It's mainly just to give us an overview, and it's to try a sort of a transit first approach to laying down the road layout. Now that we have these stations in place, let's get some of the main roads connected up. Now, the city of Leona isn't just going to feature a cozy tram network, it's also going to feature an actual train station, allowing for more regional traveling. This, however, requires us to place the train depot, which is pretty sizable, so this is going to require quite a bit of flat land as well as keeping pollution in check, because we're going to add industry to the depot. It seems like the wind pollution or the air direction is very much just blowing offshore, so what I'm thinking is that this location right here is perfect. Yeah, I was really hoping I could place this without having to buy yet another tile, but financial ruin, here we come. Let's grab this one and get the compact rail yard from the city stations pack placed, and we're gonna move that right snug up to the current tracks. We'll place the compact refurbished tram depot from the same pack out here as well. And then we'll get the medium train station placed in downtown, or relatively close to downtown that is, because I want to respect the actual layout of the existing train tracks here, so it's gonna be alongside this ring road. It's nice to get some of this fun, super expensive infrastructure in place, but it's about time we take a look at downtown. Or I guess what is supposed to be downtown. I've got a rough idea of a central plaza lined with perpendicular parking, cozy stores and cafes, and very importantly, some kind of focal structure in the middle of this plaza. So I've grabbed a pretty unique looking asset from PDX mods, but I'll need to get the general outline of this plaza in place to get an idea of whether it's even gonna work. We could use the vanilla one-way parking roads for the perpendicular parking, but I find the sidewalks to just be a little too cramped, so I've created a version in Road Builder instead that just adds a bit more walking space. So the asset in question is this 3x3 commercial lot by DAF, and if I just place it, it's very obviously a corner lot. They spend a lot of bucks making this facade really pretty, well detailed, And then the backside, they're like, yeah, that's all right. So obviously it doesn't work in its current configuration. My idea is to use 2 of these. So I'm just gonna make sure I have Anarchy enabled, and I'll place a second one. And then hopefully if I can use Move It to just bring the 2 a little closer together, center them a bit within this open plaza here, and then use the Better Bulldozer mod to get rid of, well, pretty much everything, I guess, except for the surface, it might just look nice. Yeah, it really isn't perfect, but it was never going to be perfect as the building isn't intended to be used like this. But I think it works, and more importantly, this focal point is going to make it much easier to just kind of branch out the remainder of the downtown road layout. Just a few basic roads, but it's definitely starting to shape up. But I'm gonna pause for a second because I can only imagine some of you pulling your hairs out on the fact that we still don't have any utility coverage. No sewage, water or electricity. Now we're pretty fortunate on this map because we've got outside connections that we can import all this stuff from. At a premium, mind you, but I mean, we're flush with cash, so why not? So it's a simple matter of connecting some of the pipe stuff here and probably at the depots as well. We just need a quick connection. And then in terms of electricity, we've got some beautiful, beautiful power lines crossing through the rural landscape. So we might even just be able to plop down a small transformer and that's it. Alright, so with this in place, we're gonna quickly just get some outside connecting train routes set up, which I know is a slightly weird prioritization currently. Well, I mean, we have more tram stations than people, so it's not all that weird. I guess my logic is that it would be nice to just have this set up right from the get-go. I imagine people can maybe utilize them to actually move into the city, and it's probably just gonna help with future growth and development. I'll just be reducing the amount of vehicles on each of these 2 lines to a single one and drop the ticket price just a little bit in hopes of encouraging a little more usage. So we should get some Amtrak looking fellas spawning here from the depot. There it is. It's just a basic vanilla model and then obviously a slightly orange color scheme due to the line coloring, but it's still a beautiful thing to see in motion. Oh my goodness, what just happened? Oh no. Ooh. Did we just catch that live? I think that might be the first time I've seen a crash like that actually play out in real time. I usually just see the aftermath. Oh man, that was bad. Anyways, the first train on the Leona Bigfoot line is now entering the station, which could use a bit of an upgrade. I'm just spending money to spend money at this point in time, but I think it looks a little nicer now. Let's get to some actual city building. Leona needs an elementary school, and I'll be grabbing one from BDX Mods, in this case a 1920s school based on one in central Pennsylvania. And the footprint is pretty small here, which is really nice. I can center it on this lot and there'll be plenty of room for a bit of detailing, an additional playground. Well, actually just a playground because this is just a piece of asphalt, but I guess it works. The city needs a police station, and my initial hunch was definitely to use the Northeast police station because it's such a nice asset, but I use this one so frequently, so we're gonna play into the narrative that the city recently received an all-new police station, which would be placed somewhere slightly outside of downtown, maybe on this corner here. Lots of modern, great facilities and great connectivity to the national roads that connect it up to the rest of the region. The city needs a fire station as well, and in this case we're just opting for the vanilla one because it just looks so nice. At least it very much fits into the current theme I'm envisioning for the overall architecture here in the city. We need a small hospital as well, and we're gonna use the Northeast themed medical clinic for this one, and it's gonna sit as part of its own park with oceanside views even. So it was kind of built as part of this movement that believed that if you provide some nice aesthetics, some quiet surroundings to people, they'll probably heal up faster. I really shouldn't be detailing at this stage, but I just wanted this one to stand out a little bit. We'll need some garbage collection, and we're gonna use this incredible waste collection center once again from PDX Mods. This one is by Grooney. And this one is really nice because it offers an alternative in scale and investment that the base game simply doesn't have. So we're gonna place that all the way out here by our industrial district. Alright, so I can't wait too long before we dive into mapping out the tram network, because ideally I want it to be as separated from vehicle traffic as possible, which is starting to become a little challenging as I need to bring it through this service corridor. But before that, I desperately need some people to move in and generate just a little bit of tax revenue and seeing just a little bit of activity. So let's just put a little attention into downtown. In terms of its general vibe and architecture, downtown Leone is mostly going to feature traditional North American themes throughout. But I'm open to mixing in other stuff as long as it's fairly generic looking. Most of the commercial activity is going to be centered around the open square, so I imagine most of the streets here that will have building facades facing it will have some sort of commercial activity, either as purely commercial or in the shape of mixed use. And then we'll be dotting in a few apartment complexes throughout before transitioning into a rowhouse theme, and I've got some Pittsburgh-inspired rowhouses that I'm super excited to use. Oh, and I'm probably gonna need a little bit of surface parking as well. Yeah. So there are actually a few people getting off the trains now, which makes sense because Leone has a not yet finished but pretty cozy shaping up downtown and a bit of a skyline as well. At least the main outline, I'd say. I don't really want to go any taller than this. I think this is a really cozy, very traditional look. So all around the main square we've got lots of food, shop and dining options, and we've got a few Chinese influences as well, so maybe there's a bit of an Asian diaspora here. And it does seem like the steakhouse is a very, very popular place, which makes me wonder what this place is doing wrong. As people are starting to move in and businesses are setting up shop, we are starting to generate just a little bit of tax income. But since it's gonna take a little while before we break even, and I really hope we do, otherwise it's gonna be pretty awkward, I might as well reduce some of the budgets or for some of the services where we definitely don't need 100%. I'm gonna keep the education budget at 100% though, because this directly affects the efficiency of whatever education people are getting. So I don't really want to mess with this one. With our budget now perfectly balanced, yeah, I think it's time to work a bit on the tram network. For one, because it's gonna be a ton of fun, but second of all, I want to use the same approach as with the regional trains, getting some of the public transit in place before I develop the city, so that it's ready right from the get-go. Which obviously also means it's gonna have a really low ridership figure at start. We're gonna start by branching out from the downtown tram stop, which is located on this long, narrow stretch of land, which is actually a park, which kinda explains why it was fairly easy and cheap for the city to add tram tracks to this segment. because they didn't have to change or upgrade the main street as it cuts through downtown. Now the first straight stretch here should be fairly easy, but we can't make this crossing because we'll need to go into this intersection because the police station is kinda in the way, so we need to cross to the other side of the street. So we'll move to about here, I'd say, then add a bit of a curve and move into this intersection. Then I think the continuous tool with no snapping on and anarchy, importantly, is probably gonna be our best bet to ensure that we make our way safe through this and out the other side without encroaching too much on our cozy little elementary school. As we're starting to move the tracks just south of downtown, I kind of want the same long and narrow park structure, so I'm just gonna grab a simple road, doesn't matter which one, and just kind of map out that park. Something like this, I imagine, and then we'll have the tram tracks once again follow one side of it, but we'll need another station. This time around, we're gonna go with an Iceland platform, just for the fun of it. We'll get the two tram segments connected, and I think I'm gonna place a building of sorts opposite the police station, which means that we would need to go straight through at this area, and then we're gonna have to make a fun turn to tie into the other segment. So the trams will be steering clear of the school without much issue, but you just know some of these kids are gonna grow up to be tram and train fanatics. So as we look further south, it's obvious that we'll need to cross this main arterial once again to connect up to this original station by the depot. But I want to do something a little more interesting. I just want to cross one track down here and another one up here, and then have two separate island platforms on either side of this arterial. And it's a slightly spontaneous decision, so let's just build it first and worry about the justifications later. So let's see, the distance, it would be somewhere around this bend here to justify yet another stop. So what we'll do is we're gonna bring a very suburban road out right here and just add a straight segment to that, and we'll have the station right here. We'll continue on this side, but in this case I think we'll need to just kind of bend things a little bit, just like this. Then we'll grab the tram station, a single track, and we'll add one right by this side and this side. Okay, so things are turning a little weird in this process because on the one hand I enjoy putting this tram line in early, I think it's a ton of fun. But on the other hand, I also want it to look like they've had to work around some of the established urban fabric, obviously. So I think there's gonna be something in the way for this one side of the tram line. There's gonna be a few suburban dining options. So here's a nice Taco Bell. There might even be a Whataburger right on, let's see, the other side here. Which obviously means that this track will need to move around this stuff. I left a bit of extra space here between the backside of this fast food joint because while it's not technically necessary for connectivity, there is like a bit of road segment, surface segment that just kind of ends here, and just for good measure I want to connect it up so that it looks real nice. And you bet I'm the type of nerd to just create like a little alley segment to get the road markings in place so that it actually looks like you can turn in here. And I guess on a positive, it does provide the road connectivity we need, so that's nice. But it's a very small thing, it just looks so nice. In hindsight, the depot stop here is placed a little poorly. I'd rather move that a bit further away from what I'd like to just be a national road cutting through here. So we're just gonna add a quick suburban road back here, which we're then going to align it to. And as we'll be adding plenty of industrial and office workspaces out here, I think it's actually gonna see plenty of use as well. Okay, so lots of things have been happening with a couple of new road layouts in place as well. So this more grid-like structure as we move closer to downtown is going to be comprised of really dense Pittsburgh-style row houses. They're single family, but they're only a single tile wide, so I think we can actually get a pretty decent density out of this. And then as we move a bit further south, we get to this swoopy cul-de-sac design. This is gonna feature some more traditional American suburbia. None of the super modern stuff with huge lots. It's gonna be as dense as we can make an area like this anyway. And then across the national road, I've added a couple of dedicated parking roads, and my general idea is that we'll be adding some public housing or an apartment complex of some sort. And of course, I'm hopeful that there's gonna be enough density on either side of the national road to justify taking the tram into downtown. So our next order of business is going to be actually setting up the tram line and then developing some of these southern portions. Obviously, we can only go to about downtown because we don't have all the infrastructure in place, but we'll get there, we'll get there. And I'm pretty excited about this because we've got a fully custom PDX mods tram we're gonna use, the HPLR generic, which actually runs through parts of North America. I'm just gonna add the free car single segment one with a 190 capacity. That should be more than enough. I guess we can have 2 vehicles as a start, and I am going to heavily subsidize this line by dumping the ticket price to free, just to kind of get it going. Oh, this is so exciting. Here it comes. That is such a nice asset. So this is the generic version without any specific real-life liveries, because I obviously think that fits best for Leona. Oh, that is so nice. And these tram stations by Grooney are wonderful as well. Once again, I'm not expecting any usage, obviously, but we'll see if we can change that. Let's get to adding some of these apartment complexes, because that is the quickest way to add just a bit of density out here. There's this really nice looking apartment building from the US Northeast pack that I'd love to use out here, but I think I'm gonna use it in a slightly more interesting configuration than just placing these. So I guess my idea is to get a few frontal buildings placed. Maybe we can have 4 clusters in total. Then I'm gonna disable snapping, make sure I have anarchy on because there's gonna be a bit of lot clipping here. And then I'm going to add these like this, so that we've got this T-shape for each of these 4 clusters. And obviously we're gonna need a few additional roads just to make sure this all lines up. Yeah, so I guess it turned into 2 T's and 2 L's on either side, and we're gonna need plenty of trees out here. These were planted as part of this construction, also to just kind of shield off the train tracks a little bit, although they're not super busy, at least they're not meant to be. And it's about time we get a little more character added to Leona, so we're gonna need a specific district for this housing project and a name. We are gonna go with the Elizabeth homes, named after the rich woman who chose to build them. Yes, that's how we'll do. So this added 150 apartments to the housing stock, which is pretty nice. So I'm hopeful we're gonna help accelerate our tram usage through this project. Now, while the blocks on the other side of the national road will definitely be lower in density than the Elizabeth homes, I would like to just add a tiny bit of transit-oriented development. We're gonna assume that land values here have definitely shot up with the addition of a tram station. So this lot, which used to house, I don't know, a warehouse, maybe a low-density commercial asset, now actually features a bit of mixed use. Oh yes, so we're gonna add these brickworks apartments by Sully. And I think we're just gonna add 2 and a bit of parking. We don't wanna overdo this. And let's just simulate that developers are actually moving in to build something else here as well. I mean, it sort of looks like a construction lot of some sort at least. Gotta remember, this is a really light playset, so I don't have any decals at all. I don't have any custom surfaces either, so just trying to work with what we've got. Most importantly though, look at what's happening here. Oh yes, we're seeing some people actually waiting for the tram. So Kyle Emerson is trying to go to the elementary school in downtown. Linda Weaver is trying to go to 152 Gardenia Street. Don't know where that is. Franklin is trying to go to the same place. Oh, they're going home. Oh, interesting. And the tram is coming in. Imagine if we had animated doors. I don't even know if that's possible, but it's really, really nice either way. Look at it go. Oh, that is so nice. Now we're already getting a waiting for a hearse notification from this newly built development, which is a little troublesome, I guess, but it's a more general thing, and it's because we don't have any dev service. But we've got a fix for that because I have downloaded a specific church, which I think is based on a church in Norway. I'm desperately looking. It's probably, yeah, it's in dev care. It's this wooden church, but I think it's usable for a old North American theme to build as well. And we're just gonna build it right here opposite the, I guess this is a memorial structure of some sort. Kind of looks like a memorial building. Yeah, if you've got an idea, you know, chime in. I don't know what this actually is, but we've got DevCare now, as well as a place of worship, which is probably as important. Alright, so I can't postpone the Philly rowhouses anymore because they are just so nice looking. So let's grab some of these and get them mixed in. And they're not based on Philly, they are based on Pittsburgh. I keep messing that up, and yeah, someone is gonna be mad about that. I don't know if there's a rivalry between the two cities. If I'm gonna save myself, I can tell you that I think both cities have something really nice going for them, but basically, these look amazing. They are all 1x4, but you can technically have smaller blocks because they can, you know, you can kind of have the gardens chip into each other without any pathing issues. But I'm just gonna spam these. We could zone them as well, but I'd rather just get them placed quickly and without waiting for all the construction stuff. Each time I click the R key on my keyboard, I switch through a random asset of the current Find It selection. You can bind this in the Find It options, and I highly advise that because it's just gonna make it very easy to move through all of these. So let's add some housing. Oh man, these just look amazing. Amazing assets. You'll notice I've added some, or rather I have kept some empty spaces in between them. And in some cases where it's just like, you know, a single tile wide, it's just an effect of, I guess, deindustrialization and times of economic hardship. You know, people that have defaulted on their loans, haven't been able to maintain the buildings, there's back taxes to pay, yada, yada, yada. Kind of like we've seen in Detroit and many other cities throughout the US. So there's a few empty lots in here, but the area is definitely rebounding. It's looking much better today, but there's been some hardships in the past. Now, some of the bigger empty lots are meant for commercial activity because this is right next to downtown. So it's very much a transitionary area, which is quite dense. You've still got a few commercial establishments before you transition out into more suburban areas. Now, obviously, I don't have Pittsburgh specifically themed commercial assets, so I'm just gonna have to kind of work with what we've got. But I think we can find some decent stuff in here. And as part of the transition, there's also gonna be a few of these Pittsburgh row houses in downtown. This has spawned 2 new districts, one which is called Brooks, which is a bit of an odd one, currently featuring the Leona Police Department and the elementary school. So it basically just provides employment opportunities currently, but that's gonna change in the future, of course. And then the creatively named Southtown, which I think fits the vibe of a rowhouse district. 89 households is not great, but I mean, it is a single family area exclusively, and I think in terms of single family density, it's not terrible either. Now we're gonna take the very same design principles of Southtown and we're gonna apply that to this district, which is going to sit just west of downtown. The road layout conveniently allows for the same overall design, and we're gonna leave a few empty spaces in that are just gonna sit empty, and a few which are gonna be filled by commercial activity. We'll just quickly change the district layout of downtown because I think I'm gonna fit in a park here, and then we'll add a district to encompass this new area to the west side of downtown. We're gonna call this Bendy. We'll be naming the park as, let's see, we'll go with Ivy Park. Yeah, very creative. And we'll add some simple paths and some trees to this area in general, because that's just going to transform these areas. Yeah, I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, but it feels like a tale as old as time. You add a few trees, okay, maybe a few hundred, and things just really change the overall look, and it's just such a cheap, easy way of adding like a sense of place and some light detailing. Now with the addition of all these Pittsburgh-themed row houses, we've crossed the soon to cross the 1700 population, which is really nice. But we'll need to keep that unemployment in check. It's approaching 10%, which isn't terrible, but not great either. But we're gonna save the whole job creation part for a little later, because I can't wait to finalize the tram network and incorporate some type of single platform dual station setup in the close vicinity to the hospital, and then finally getting the connection in place all the way out here. Now before we do that though, I just want to move the downtown station just a little bit. I want to move it down like a block, maybe a block and a half, to around this part. And it's basically just to create like a bit more space before we have 2 additional stations at the hospital. Now look, the whole double single platform tram station setup at the hospital is completely unnecessary, but it's just a lot of fun to work with. And I'm gonna add a parking road or something that might make it feel a little more necessary. Actually, I'm not sure I can sell this in like a realistic fashion. You know, they wanted to do something fun with it. They wanted to spend a few bucks, and they certainly have. So the first station makes a lot of sense because it's gonna be right in front of the hospital entrance, which I think is a really nice courtesy. It's the second station that's gonna be the real problem, but I guess we can play with the fact that it's actually pretty hard to fit in a dual track station in this little spot. You could just do it right here. Never, you know, I shouldn't try justifying anything. I'm trying to have fun here. And usually you guys are up for just that, so I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I do know. I'm adding a bunch of parking here, which we are going to bring all the way down here, and we'll even add like a small segment as well. And then the second station is going to be placed right here. Now, I think you guys catch my drift. I mean, this is just gonna be fun trying to connect. or the game is gonna crash. So my first challenge is crossing these roads, technically 2 roads, without any excessive clipping. I think that might just work. Oh yeah, and then the next challenge is the parking lot road, but that shouldn't be too bad. The game is super flexible when working like this, fortunately, otherwise it really wouldn't be possible. So let's see how that node behaves. That really doesn't look too bad. Once again, a couple of bushes, a few trees, that's gonna be all nicely covered up. Maybe there should be just like a tiny stretch of sidewalk out here by the hospital. I don't know. I don't want to add too much because I like this non-sidewalk look, even though it's not very user-friendly. Either way, this connection was just all right, and I assume this connection is gonna be just fine as well. So we just need to expand on the downtown segment here in a double track configuration to, I guess, about here. Actually, let's make the double track crossing so that we don't get 2 crossings really close together and mess up the nodes. Yes, that was me trying to make an easy game-friendly decision. Who would have thought? I'm gonna try to add a net lane on top of these 2 segments, or at least this one that crosses quite a few roads, just something to make it a lot more visible to all the pedestrians. So I have grabbed the extra detailing mods. I haven't grabbed any specific packs though, so I've got all the vanilla stuff available to me, including this Highway Drive Lane 4, which, I don't know, I can overlay on the tracks here, so I'm just gonna give that a go and see how that looks. It's about as good as we can do, I feel. Okay, so it's by no means a perfect solution, and there's a bit of texture overlapping on the actual tram station platforms, but it does look pretty fun, and it's very visible, which I guess was like the main purpose, so I think we'll stick to it. Looky, looky, it's a pedestrian path, and all of a sudden this place is now walkable. As we continue the tracks to finalize the network all the way out here, I would like one additional station in between this one and the 2 single platform stations at the hospital. And I would like to create something fun here, a curved station, if possible. So I'm gonna try something weird. I'm gonna grab the curvy segment of the road here, which I really don't want to change. I'm gonna click it with Road Builder, and then we're gonna make something fun here. So I am going to add some dedicated tram tracks to one side of this road. Then we'll add a 5-meter median in between so that we can have stops on either side, because you'll need a thick, wide median to add an actual stop. And in this case, I'm gonna downgrade these because I don't want tram tracks on the inside there. And I don't want any parking either within the tram dedicated segment. I don't think that's needed. So we're gonna disable that. And we are going to disable parking on this side as well, I think. Yeah, just to kind of reduce the size of this. Which very conveniently brings it to 24 meters of free units. So using this throughout the city wouldn't actually be much of a problem. I'm just going to say edit all instances, and it's going to be a regular tram 2-lane road. Yeah, I think that's gonna work just fine. Then we're gonna click it once more, and we're gonna say place more, but this time with upgrade, no snapping, just so I can get it perfectly aligned to the rest of the road here. Now for the moment of truth, we are able to add a tram stop on either side. I wonder if we can squeeze in the architectural tram stop shelter. Yeah, I mean, that might even work. It seems like we've got the space here. So we'll add that to either side, just like this. And then we'll just get these tracks connected up. So I think this connection here should be fairly simple, but once again, we might do something a little fun just to assume that there's something in the way here, which we're then going to place afterwards. I'm doing everything here in the wrong order, I feel. But I think the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get the straight segment in place, like this. Then we'll grab the complex curve, we'll click once, disable some snapping, click once more, and get this all connected up. Yoink. We'll do something fun on this side as well. So we'll have some structure right here, which forces the tram track to squeeze in between the structure and the road. And then we'll have something on this corner as well, I think, which is going to force it to divert its route and just move a bit further inlands, I guess, something like this. Oh yeah. And then we can cross and make this connection. And it's all super weird since we don't have any of these developments that block the tram path, but we're gonna get those in place. So this lot will be home to a famous old sports bar, which is why the trams had to go around. And this lot features an auto dealership. And then on second thought, I think we're just gonna keep this segment super simple. There's not really gonna be anything here except for a large light manufacturing plant of some sort, which I'm just gonna provide a quick road for, which is also gonna add quite a few jobs, which is obviously very nice. And I might even add in a few rail tracks just for detailing purposes. But let's just get this placed. So one thing kinda just led to another, and we've now got a northwestern industrial district named Garnet, adding 240 jobs to the city. Not bad. Well, I think we're ready for the final tramline extension, at least on my watch. So let's grab the tramline tool, and we've got the final stop currently here sitting in downtown, so we're just gonna grab one segment, drag it all the way out here. Now technically this doesn't need to be like a dual platform station because we're only utilizing the one. So I'm just kind of future-proofing it for future expansions if some of you guys grab the save and want to continue expanding Leona. So we'll add the 2 stops here by the curvy segment. It's going to be interesting to see if people actually utilize this by now. And then the 2 additional stops by the hospital. And then I just need to make sure everything's looking all right here. We need 1 additional stop right here. And the current usage of the, let's see, Fiona connector, I don't know, is 6%. Wow, that's pretty terrible. I mean, we need to give people a reason to actually connect. We still haven't added the actual density out here required, and we've obviously got way too little going on out here by Garnet. So I think it's time we fill in this area with a ton of housing. Alright, so we've actually crossed 2,200 residents now, and we've got room to spare because unemployment is sitting at 0.6%, which is really low. So this was mainly achieved by filling out the Brooks neighborhood. If you recall, it did have, or do have, a pretty weird shape. None of the blocks are super regular, but I think we managed. I think it turned out pretty well. Could have zoned this easily as well. Obviously the police station is like the main focal point, But there's a few really nice dining options, a few old shops as well, and obviously some pretty close connectivity if you need regional travel through the train station. We also built an entirely new district on the western side of town called Westville. Oh yeah. Very much the same mixture of a few commercial assets, obviously a few gas stations as well, and then just a bunch of row housing. Now it kind of thins out as we move further west, and it's my plan to start the transition to some really low density suburban developments here. So think single floor, single family housing. And this is also the type of development that is going to dominate this stretch of land in between Westville and Garnet. But before we get that far, we need a few more commercial signature buildings, and I've got some proper classics lined up. Because I've got a Home Depot, which I'm definitely gonna place, but maybe here alongside Evergreen Street. And then I've got a Best Buy with parking lots, which I'm gonna add just opposite it. Yeah, the Home Depot had some weird pathing issues, so I'm gonna compensate by adding in a food station and a McDonald's, no less. We'll also add in a nice local brewery. And then we're gonna work in some suburban style roads around these developments. As for the more classical suburban stuff, I'll have to get creative because this is a pretty light playset, so I've just got the two US themed region packs. And I'm not sure the Southwest pack is gonna be the best fit, the best transition from this Pittsburgh themed row housing. I mean, we'll have to be flexible, but currently I'm trying to filter for 2x4s at level 3 or below because I don't want anything super fancy here. So yeah, I'm just gonna, maybe we could filter one more so that it has to be less than 4 tiles wide, because we can fit in a few 3x4s as well. I mean, I'm just gonna try this out and we'll see how it looks. So I've just removed most of the visible crosswalks from all of these junctions except for the main street cutting through here in hopes of making the vibe a little more suburban. And on closer inspection, I really think this transition works, and I think these mostly vanilla and waterfront assets are just fine for the general theme of the city. Which is why I took the liberty of just filling out what is now the district of Morris as well. And moving to the south side of town, I've also filled out South Terrace. With all this in place, I am cautiously optimistic about increases in the ridership figures for the Fiona connector. So here goes nothing. 19%. Okay, so in absolute terms, that's not great, but in relative terms, that's a pretty significant increase. Nice. And I'm sure we can bump this up even further because it's becoming very apparent that we're missing more medium and high density, specifically low rent high density developments. Because we don't have a lot of different housing options currently, and we have a ton of available jobs. So the economy should be able to absorb several hundred newcomers. One of the first really interesting locations we could fill out would be these two long blocks of empty land right by the hospital and this main arterial road. And specifically some low rent stuff would be a nice fit. Now I'm filtering for level 1 stuff, and I'm going to select buildings that aren't all that tall, because I don't want to actually dwarf the downtown core by adding a bunch of tall towers outside of the core. But I will need, something that can actually provide plenty of housing opportunities. So I'm gonna place one tall, slightly tall tower block, and then I'm gonna grab some of these smaller ones. And I'm just gonna make sure that I colorize these so that they have a pretty uniform color scheme throughout. But I think we can easily add 3 of these. Yes, and we have a red brick thing going on throughout much of the city, so let's just grab this color here. And it's so nice that this is now a vanilla tool. And we'll just quickly add a few quick paths and trees here behind the buildings. And for this area, I want to keep with the red brick vibe and go for the CO10 condos. So I think this is another vanilla structure. In fact, we're going to place one of these, and we'll use the same trick we used by the Elizabeth homes. And we'll just kind of add one additional one at a bit of an angle, just like that. And we might even do one more of these. And then we'll just add a quick parking road in between. We'll be throwing in a small park, and then right next to that we're gonna mix it up by adding the Atkin Palmer mansion. So someone very important built this mansion back in the day. Now it sits at a bit of a weird location though. And let's just make sure we're keeping with the theme here. Alright, so I've named this district Oliva, and it's really a weird mixed bag, but it is home to more than 700 people, which is really nice, a great bump in population figure. And I just realized I'm not sure I've placed a single office building throughout Leona. Now it's a small city after all, but still, I mean, would be a bit of a shame. So I think I'm gonna grab the Principes, this good old vanilla office signature building, which I've used countless times. And I'm just gonna add it to Willowbrook Street facing the car dealership. Well, I mean, with 24 employees, it's not like it makes much of a difference. And they can't turn a profit either. Wonderful. Either way, our final bit of action is going to be detailing the downtown square just a little bit. We're gonna keep to the same mantra, super light detailing, nothing fancy. So I think I'm just gonna grab the tile 01, so one of the vanilla tile surfaces, and we're just gonna fill out this segment, and I think the rest is just gonna be some manicured grass. We'll add in a beautiful fence of some sort. Maybe, what is this? No, this one. We're gonna add a fancy fountain out front. I'm just trying to manually align this, of course. And then maybe a park of some sort, something that looks symmetrical, like the tiny city park. Across the main street, we're grabbing the same 01 tile surface to just kind of fill out the space in between the main street and the tram tracks. We'll also upgrade the tram platform to feature this surface. Oh, before I forget it, line usage is now 27%. There you go. And that's pretty much it for the city of Leona. Now I'm gonna wrap up with some thoughts and ideas for future expansions, which could be relevant if you've been building along or if you're just straight up grabbing the save from Patreon to continue the city. Obviously the actual map is huge, so you have plenty of expansion possibilities, but I think the big empty land right next to downtown is probably one of the more interesting approaches. Because I'm fairly certain you'll be able to just expand the downtown road layout, maybe even just continue the simple grid format, which could effectively double the size of downtown, and that's just gonna provide an entirely different visual. It's just gonna make Leona feel like a much bigger city, and it's gonna help justify many more suburban expansions. And then of course there's a really long shoreline, which could be utilized for maybe tourism-based industries, or speaking of industries, an actual port. I think that would be a nice addition to the city as well. But all that is of course going to require a healthy economy, and that isn't exactly the current status. So before I wrap up with the final save here, we're just gonna try to fix this. And I think it might be possible by just adjusting some of the service budgets without even touching the taxes. Because we've got a pretty oversized hospital and even a school that's a little too big currently for the city. And I'm not sure the police station needs full funding as well, but that's up to you. I'm gonna move in at least and just try to balance things out a little bit before we wrap up. Alright, I fell into the old trap of bumping taxes, but 12% is more than reasonable and we still have full demand, so I think the city will manage, and most importantly, we're now turning a profit. If you enjoyed this video, maybe consider subscribing, as I'm planning on doing more of these standalone starting cities builds in the future. They are super challenging but a ton of fun, and some of them might turn into actual series. I'll finish up with some final cinematics, and I just want to thank you all for watching. Goodbye.